Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Wangen, the founder and medical director of the IBS Treatment Center, and today I am going to do a reaction to the video by Dr. Mark Hyman called 5 Simple Steps to Cure IBS. Now, this is a really popular IBS video. It's got over 1 million views and it's been around for 14 years. So I thought, wow, let's look at this and see what's in here that might be of value, and what can we get out of this video, and what can we add to this video. So Dr. Mark Hyman, first off, a very well-known doctor who's spoken on a lot of health issues. He's done a lot for the health world. If you haven't heard about him, I mean, he's added a lot of value to just people's knowledge base on what is it that they can do to be healthier, right? And I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mark Hyman. He is not a self-proclaimed IBS specialist. I don't think he would say that he is, but he talks about all different health issues of all types and tries to shed light on these topics. So let's take a look at what Dr. Hyman has to say.
Hi, this is Dr. Mark Hyman. Imagine having a condition with symptoms so severe that you can't leave the house. Yet your doctor calls it a functional or psychosomatic disease, meaning it's all in your head. Imagine that's frustrating, but it's a very real problem for the 60 million people, that's 20% of Americans, who have irritable bowel syndrome.
So this Dr. Mark Hyman has shed some right away. I mean, he's telling the facts as they are, the real truth about this. And I like that he's acknowledged that this is a really significant issue, meaning it dramatically affects people's lives. IBS is not just something that we laugh at on some show on TV where they talk about it. It's a real problem for people who literally can't leave their house, and it really is a problem for that many Americans, for a ton of people. The data has supported that. So he's not exaggerating here at all. This is very true stuff.
They're plagued by uncomfortable and often disabling symptoms like bloating, cramps, diarrhea, constipation, and pain. I have many patients with irritable bowel syndrome, some of whom have suffered for decades without relief. Their previous doctors couldn't find the cause of their illness, so they were told just to take more fiber or take Metamucil, or were prescribed sedatives like Valium.
Yeah, so this is very true. I mean, he knows it as well as I do, that doctors typically are just going to tell people, and if you've experienced it too, right? Take more fiber. Try this drug. We're going to try to help with this, at least with the symptoms, but they don't really seem to have any idea of what's really going on. And he's obviously run into a lot of patients like this, as have I.
Or antispasm drugs or antidepressants. That's not the answer. And I can tell you about a different way to solve the problem of irritable bowel syndrome by dealing with the cause. Let me tell you about my patient Alexis. At 45, she suffered from irritable bowel for 33 years, almost her whole life. Her sudden and major symptoms were painful, cramping diarrhea that would come out of the blue. She was doing the best she could to prevent it. She didn't consume dairy, she didn't drink or smoke, she took Citracel every day, and yet nothing helped. She would go to the bathroom 4 or 5 times even before she left the house in the morning.
So Dr. Hyman's a really good storyteller, right? And he knows how to convey these stories of these patients that he's seen, which I think is really helpful because a lot of people can relate to that. And he mentioned just a while back that IBS is that group of symptoms, right? It could be constipation, it could be diarrhea, it could be abdominal pain, it could be gas, bloating. Those are the things that are encompassed in IBS, and a lot of IBS sufferers have a variety of other symptoms as well. But those are the 5 key things that truly are defined in IBS. And so he goes on and he tells this story, and I might skip over some of it just so we don't spend forever listening to this, but it's valuable. He's sharing this, his experience with his patient.
And she couldn't go out of the house without knowing where all the closest bathrooms would be in case she had what she called S attacks. Now, these weren't Alexis's only problem. She also felt full and bloated after every meal, which starchy foods made worse. An upper endoscopy had shown that she had gastritis or inflammation of her stomach, and she'd taken many antibiotics over the years.
So I think this is really interesting. He mentioned that this patient had an upper endoscopy. This is when you get scoped through the mouth down into the stomach, and that they were diagnosed with gastritis. So gastritis is, the medical field often considers that something separate from IBS, but the causes in my experience, are the same, because I see a lot of patients with gastritis. In fact, I've done a video on gastritis and the relationship between that and IBS. And it's something's irritating the stomach, right? As opposed to an IBS, something's irritating further on. But in a lot of people, actually, there's a big overlap. There's something like 40% of IBS patients have gastritis. So that's a little known fact, but it's common because the causes are the same. The same things are irritating both the stomach and the rest of the intestinal tract.
She also had severe PMS, or premenstrual syndrome, and had irregular periods, breast tenderness, sugar cravings, headaches, agitation. She also had very unusual symptoms like rectal itching, which is often a clue for yeast infections or food allergies, and she was tired all the time. Now, she tried to eat healthy, but her diet was less than ideal.
So this is, he mentions a whole bunch of symptoms that you may or may not have if you have IBS, because every IBS patient is different, right? There's the PMS and the fatigue, the rectal itching, those things you might have, you might not have, but they can be tied in with IBS. So it's sharing these personal stories is really helpful, but it's also sometimes misleads people into thinking, oh, but I'm not that person, I'm not that exact patient, so I don't necessarily have that problem. Well, you very well could, because the symptoms can be so varied that you could be exactly like this person or not anything like them and still have IBS. So just keep that in mind.
She had a bran muffin and coffee in the morning and a salad for lunch, but her drug of choice was sugar.
Yeah, so he's gonna harp on sugar here, which is true. I mean, sugar's pretty much bad for almost everything. It's bad for your digestive tract. It's bad for the microbiome in the gut. It's bad for your health in general. It's just, sugar is the worst, and yet it's probably the most prevalent food in our culture because it's in so many things. If you truly try to avoid sugar and you read ingredients, you're gonna be shocked at how many things it's in. It's in just about everything.
How did I help Alexis? Well, all I really did was to treat the underlying causes of her digestive problems.
Okay, so all he really did was treat the underlying causes of her digestive problems. All right, that's not all he did. That phrase right there is super hard to get to, right? I mean, that's all I do too, but it's super hard to get to the underlying cause. It takes time. It's not just a super simple, easy, hey, I just treated the underlying cause, right? If that was easy, you would have already done it. All your other doctors would have already done it. They would know what to do. So he makes it sound easy, but obviously not easy. But let's see what he says here.
And how did I do that? Well, first you have to understand a little bit about how the gut works to know how to fix it if it's broken. Now imagine a tennis court. That's the surface area of your small intestine where all your food is absorbed. Your small intestine is also the site of about 60% of your immune system. The bad news? The small intestine is also just one cell layer away from a toxic sewer.
Yeah, so this is important to keep in mind. It is a vast area, right? It's 30 feet long. If you spread it out, its surface area is the size of a tennis court. It's got a ton of your immune system in there, which is really interesting because your immune system is the thing that's reacting to foods. Well, there are other things actually that can react to foods too, but your immune system is one of the major players. And the majority of your immune system, what he just said, if you stop and think about it, is that the majority of your immune system is in your digestive tract, is actually in there, and that's why things can go haywire. It's because it's so involved in what's going on in the gut that if you have an immune reaction to something that you're eating, that's a huge deal in your gut for sure. All right, see what else he says.
All of the bacteria in your gut and the toxins from food, if that lining breaks down from stress or too many antibiotics or anti-inflammatory drugs or intestinal infections or a low-fiber, high-sugar diet or alcohol and more, look out.
Yeah, look out, right? Yeah, exactly. And a lot of other things can break it down, and the food reaction itself can break it down as well, that layer, which is one of the problems. So there's a lot going on here.
Your immune system will suffer and you can develop all sorts of digestive problems and other systemic problems. But let's talk a little bit more about those bacteria in your gut. You've got about 3 pounds of it, 500 species in your gut. In fact, there's more bacterial DNA in your body than there is human DNA. Of all the gut bacteria, there are the good guys and the bad guys, and then there's the very bad guys. If the bad guys take over, or if they move on to the areas where they shouldn't be, which is the small intestine, it's normally sterile in there, then the body can start fermenting the food you digest, particularly sugar and starchy foods. That's called small bowel bacterial overgrowth, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
So yeah, he's giving you a really nice overview of the digestive system, of what's going on in there. There's literally 100 trillion bacteria in your gut. I mean, like you said, more cells, more bacterial cells in your gut than there are cells in your body. So who's who, really? Are we just a transport system for our bacteria? I don't know. It's a whole nother philosophical discussion, right, that we don't want to get into. But the truth is that there's a ton of bacteria, and it's an incredibly important player in our health, and especially in the health of our digestive system, right? All right, let's go on.
And it's a major cause of irritable bowel syndrome. The major symptom it causes is bloating or a feeling of fullness after meals. Now, what causes the bloating? It's the overproduction of gas by bacteria as they have lunch on your lunch.
Yeah, so gas is produced by the bacteria, and it is probably the major cause of bloating. Now, I've had patients, for example, I just had a patient who is so constipated that she only has a bowel movement once a week. That's going to cause bloating too, right? Because it's going to be fullness. There's nowhere else. The stuff's in there still, right? It's got to go somewhere. You're going to feel bloated from that. But gas is the other really big cause, and probably the number one cause of bloating.
This can be diagnosed by a breath test.
All right, so you can do a breath test. He's talking about you can do a breath test to diagnose bacterial overgrowth. Not my favorite test, actually, for that, because breath testing is so indirect. I mean, there are a lot of things that actually affect a breath test, and it's not telling us exactly what bacteria are in there, exactly how to treat it and all that. I prefer to use a stool analysis that's actually going to map out everything that's in the gut so I can see what's in there, and then I can treat specific things. Not a huge fan. Now, this is an older video too, right? But it's still really popular. Breath testing is still super popular when it comes to diagnosing bacterial overgrowth, but not something I'm a big proponent of, because I think there are better ways to do it where you get better results.
There's more than one factor that leads to irritable bowel syndrome. Another major cause of IBS is food sensitivities.
Yes. Food sensitivities are definitely another major cause of IBS and digestive problems, and a whole lot of other problems. I've seen that literally thousands of times. So he's building his case here, right? He talked about the microbiome a little bit, at least talked about bacterial overgrowth, now he's talking about food sensitivities, another big player, another big piece in the puzzle in digestive problems.
These are the two main causes of irritable bowel: food allergies and overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine.
All right, so he says those are the two main causes of irritable bowel syndrome. I'd say there are two important causes of irritable bowel syndrome. There are a lot of causes. I mean, a ton of causes of irritable bowel syndrome. Those are two big players. I don't know if I'd call them the two main ones. They're just important ones. And most people that I see have more than one cause going on at the same time. So we have to put the pieces in the puzzle together. So let's keep going though, see what else he says.
But there may be others, including lack of digestive enzymes.
Lack of digestive enzymes, that's another. Yep, I agree with that.
Parasites, worms.
So you said parasites and worms, that's another one too. Definitely we see that. Not actually all that common, but do see it. Certainly there are other pieces of the puzzle that need to be considered.
Zinc or magnesium deficiency, and more.
And then he says zinc deficiency and more. So there are all kinds of vitamin and mineral deficiencies that play a role in all kinds of things going on in your health. So definitely worth considering. And he says, and more.
And this is precisely why it is so critically important to personalize the treatment based on the unique circumstances that exist for each person who suffers from IBS.
Now this is where we agree 100%, 110%, right? As he says, it's so important to personalize the treatment. It absolutely is. Like, he's not just selling one solution, right? It's because there isn't one solution. If there were, it would be really simple. We'd just tell everybody to stop eating gluten or go on the FODMAP diet or something like that. That's not how it works. because it just doesn't work. That's not going to help the majority of people. And every single patient that I see and that we see at the IBS Treatment Center is got their own way completely different treatment plan. There's not even a stock plan. We need to figure out what's really going on and then create the plan for the patient. It's not like we have the plan and then you just show up and we unveil it, oh hey, congratulations, you've reached the plan. No, we have to do a lot of work, a lot of detective work to figure out exactly what the plan is. So I agree with him completely on that particular topic because it's super, super important.
The solution is most certainly not a one-size-fits-all. I prescribed her a non-absorbed antibiotic, I gave her an antifungal drug for her yeast problem, and I had her eliminate the foods she was allergic to. Then I gave her supplements of healthy bacteria to normalize her gut and zinc to help with her digestive enzymes. See, because chronic diarrhea can cause a zinc deficiency. I also gave her extra fiber to feed the healthy bacteria, fish oil to reduce gut inflammation, and a multivitamin and herbs to help balance her hormones, which are greatly affected by abnormal gut bacteria.
All right. Whoa, he did a whole bunch of stuff, right? I even lost count in there, but it was a lot more than 5 things that he just did. He did, I don't know, 8 things, 10 things. He gave her a bunch of supplements. So he started out, he said he gave it an antibiotic and an antifungal. That's a pretty tricky balancing act, right? Because an antibiotic can cause candida overgrowth, which he didn't really talk about too much. He did way back in the beginning, he talked a little bit about it. But a candida overgrowth, another massive cause of digestive problems and of IBS. And he did an antifungal and he did an antibiotic. I almost never do that. Occasionally I have to do that. But if you give somebody an antibiotic, you increase the risk for a candida overgrowth because you're killing the competition off. Some of the good guys with the bad guys in the bacterial world, the candida love that. They flourish. They'll take over that territory. So usually there's almost always natural things that you can use that will kill both bacteria and candida at the same time so that you don't have to give an antibiotic and an antifungal separately. Keep that in mind. That's something that I would do differently than what he did. He also talked about, so he uses zinc. Zinc's a nice supplement. Sometimes I use that, and it helps with the digestive system, especially acid production in the stomach, stuff sometimes you need. Zinc is a common deficiency, so sometimes you need that. What else did he mention? Several other things in there. He talked about her diet. He did a bunch of supplements, right? He did some fatty acids, like some fish oil, and he did a multi. All those things are nice. They aren't probably going to be the cure or even really big keys. They're just nice supportive tools. He used enzymes as well. That's another one that might be helpful, but I find that most people actually don't need enzymes. Some people do. Enzymes are often helping because they're helping you break down foods that your digestive system can't break down but should be breaking down. So if that's happening, the enzymes are really just a temporary tool to help break down the food, but they're not the cure, right? They're treating the symptom. The symptom is that you're not breaking foods down yet. When you get healed, you will. So in most cases, the enzymes are very temporary or you don't even need them. But they're not a bad thing. And there are people who do need, who literally have an enzyme deficiency and need that. That's something that we also help people figure out. And then we know, do you actually really need enzymes in a bigger way than just as a supportive tool like this? Are they actually the cure? Sometimes that happens. It's not common, but it can happen. Same thing with acid production in the stomach as well. Can actually be the cause of the problem. But it's not that common, but it does happen. All right, let's see where else he goes with it.
So what happened next? Well, Alexis came back 2 months later, a different person.
All right, hallelujah. Alexis got better. Of course, he wasn't going to tell us a big story like this and she didn't get better. I wouldn't do that either. But Alexis got better. He did a lot of things that were appropriate for her condition, and he built his case for that, right? And he figured out what needed to be done and did it. And she was doing great. And I'm sure she was, actually, because I've seen so many patients where when you customize the treatment to the causes of the problem, they get better. That's fully what I expect with IBS patients. That's what we all expect at the IBS Treatment Center, is for our patients to get better, and to get not just a little bit better, to get significantly, hugely better, to basically get all better and to not have IBS anymore. That's the goal. That's always the goal when we see new patients.
Not only did she lose 20 pounds, she had not had one of her attacks at all and was having normal bowel movements for the first time in 33 years.
Yeah, so I've seen patients like that who literally are having normal bowel movements for the first time in decades, sometimes as ever, for whatever they can remember in their whole life. I mean, it literally can and does happen. You really should expect this. If you're not getting that kind of care, you're not getting the right care. You're not getting the kind of IBS care that you can get, that's out there, that you deserve, obviously, and that that I've seen happen over and over and over again. This is not just a one-off. Oh, someone lucky person got better. This can happen routinely. I mean, this is our full expectation when we're treating IBS patients, that they get back to normal. And it might, even if it's been for decades, for ages, and they don't even know what normal is a lot of times, because it's been so long that they wouldn't have any idea what normal is.
And as a side effect, she also had more energy, no more PMS. She looked and felt 10 years younger and was free of the suffering she'd endured for over 3 years. And she lost 20 pounds.
So yeah, so like he's saying, digestion affects all these other things, right? It affects your weight, it affects your energy, it affects your skin, it affects your hair. It literally affects everything, because the nutrients that you need, that all the cells in your body need, are coming through your digestion and your digestive tract. And if you can't break foods down, then you can't extract the nutrients out of your food, and then they're not going to get to all the cells in your body, and everything in your body is going to suffer one way or the other. And that's how these things all tie together. All right, so that's what Dr. Hyman had to say mostly about IBS, and he had a lot of really good, valuable things that even 14 years ago, right, when he filmed this, there was an awareness. I mean, we were doing, IBS treatment back then, and doing a lot of what he said and a lot of other things. And so this knowledge has been around. It's not like it's just brand new, but it's not being adapted, right? Your doctors aren't taking this on. If things were going to change, they would have changed, right? You'd be able to get this routinely from anybody, and you can't. That's the frustrating part, is when you need this kind of care, it's so hard to find. It's so dang hard to find somebody who can help you and knows what to do and is willing to do it, and often go out of their way to do it, because it's not routine. This is not the standard of care that we see in our country, or really any country. Because we get patients from all different countries, and they're always like, oh, our care isn't as good as it is in this country. And then we get, of course, tons of patients in this country who say, why doesn't my doctor do any of this? Because it just isn't going to happen. That's a whole other story. But what I want you to do is at least go away feeling hopeful and feeling optimistic that there really is a solution for figuring out your digestive problems, because there is, because I know there is. I mean, if there's a problem, there's a cause, right? If there's a cause, then we can figure it out. And you can figure it, you can get better. And it's not super simple, that process, even though this thing says 5 simple steps. It's not simple, it's a challenge, because if it was simple, you would have figured it out already. You wouldn't be here watching this video. But it is doable. And that's what I want you to go away with, is knowing, okay, I can do this, I can figure this out. And we're here to help you if you need that kind of help, because that's what we do. And we serve people all over the United States and the world via Zoom telemedicine, and we've been doing that for many, many, many years. And it makes it accessible and available to everyone. Well, thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, and if you found it interesting and valuable, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more interesting information and videos about digestive problems, and in the future, more reaction videos to other videos out there. Thanks again. Have a great day.